Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of r/ProRevenge. My name's Ryan, the official host here on Reddit Voice, and I look forward to bringing you guys today's top stories. Before I do though, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button, as well as make sure you got notifications turned on, that way you could stay up to date with all the latest and the greatest. Little bit of a side note here, rather than our typical multiple story format, today's episode is gonna be one long story. So buckle up and get ready. I did what my mom told me to do and got revenge. Disclaimer, this story is not meant to belittle single mothers nor people with mental illness. And yes, I do love my mom, but this was a story about how things can come back to bite you. So, just some backstory here. My parents divorced when I was in kindergarten, so no more than 6. My mom got full custody of us, and she suffered from mental illness. I believe she has borderline personality disorder, and she was also a typical narcissistic parent. Anyway, ever since the divorce, she would always tell us how it wasn't her fault we didn't have enough money for things and blame my dad. Example, if there wasn't enough to eat for breakfast, we complained like small children do when we were hungry. She'd snap,
"It's your father's fault, so cry to him."
I just learned never to complain and do without and spend my childhood taking care of her. My sister and I were trained from when I was about 8, my sister 10, to come right home from school and do our homework and clean the house and take care of ourselves. Don't ask mom to make dinner, make it yourself, and all the chores so mom doesn't have to do anything. It sounds bizarre, but we thought that was normal, as well as being hit and told on a daily basis that we were worthless. It got worse my senior year of high school. My grandma died a few months before that summer, and my mom quit her job and blew through the money my grandma left before the summer was over. This was close to $75K back in 2000. She refused to get another job and kept coming up with excuses not to work, i.e.,
"I need a break, get off my back, I hurt my leg,"
etc., while she was going out drinking with her friend and acting like a carefree teenager. So I spent my senior year working hard at school and met my part-time job, pretty much taking care of an overgrown child who refused to work or help out. Anytime a utility shut off or there was no food left in the house, she just griped,
"You have a job, why can't you pay it?"
If I brought up the fact that my dad sent her child support, she would just complain that she had my sister's tuition, which I later learned was BS. She'd flaunt that child support check and laugh and refer to it as "Mommy's paycheck." Flash forward to when I'm about to choose a college and my mom keeps belly aching about the costs, and of course has zero saved in a college fund. I couldn't afford a private university since I was only offered a partial scholarship, so I decided to go to a reasonably priced and still highly regarded state university. My freshman year, I was pretty much able to swing the cost of tuition and room and board. I lived on campus. Since last year of high school, I filed my taxes and FAFSA as soon as my W-2s came in, so I had a decent amount of grants. During my first year of college, I almost became unable to receive financial aid for my second year of college. Why? My W-2s were mailed to my home address, and my mom, being the caring and supportive mother she was, shredded them and threw them in the trash. I found out because my sister was home that weekend and saw it. My mom denied, and when I came home for spring break, I pressed her for it, and she lied and said her friend had them. Her friend was a CPA. My sister called my mom out on this bluff by calling the friend who said she did not have any of our tax info. She was very concerned and told me and my sister to request duplicate W-2s and have them sent home, and she'll have my mom send them over to me. My mom was pissed that we had checked with their friend and called her out on her bluff, but true to her word, her friend did my taxes for me and my FAFSA. I had offered to pay her, or at least babysit for her, but she told me it was okay. I think she knew my mom was mentally unstable and felt sorry for my sister and I. At this point, I learned my mom had not been helping out my sister at all with tuition like she claimed, and my sister had mentioned it to my dad, who called her out and demanded to know where the child support was going. My mom insisted he wasn't paying her enough money, and that's why she couldn't help us out. During my second year of college, my W-2s were once again sent home, and my mom once again, accidentally, threw them in the trash. I had to request duplicate W-2s from my summer job, not just once, but twice, because she kept throwing them in the trash. I filed my tax return late that year, and as a result, my FAFSA was filed late, and I wasn't able to get the full amount I was receiving before. Anytime I complained to her about money or no food in the house, it was,
"Complain to your father."
well, the summer before my 3rd year, I was burned out on my mom's BS. I was working full-time for the summer and saving as much as I could, but she was refusing to help me at all while I was home with food or anything. She was pissed that instead of paying the phone bill so she could make long-distance calls to her online friends and spend all day in chat rooms, back when we had dial-up, I had the audacity to spend my hard-earned money on a cell phone and pay that bill myself. She told everyone I should just drop out because I wasn't going to apply myself hard enough. I was in the honors program, and she would never play martyr with her friends about,
"It's so hard when you have kids in college and they eat out of your house and home and come to you for money."
At the end of the summer, I had saved up $1,000, but the school won't let me move into the dorm unless I paid 50% up front, which was about $10K. I didn't know what to do, as all summer the uni had told me it was fine, and on move-in day told me I couldn't move into the dorm. I called my dad in a panic, and he spoke to someone who agreed to give me 24 hours. I moved in, and the next day my dad showed up first thing with a coffee and donut for me and told me not to worry. He was going to fix this once and for all. We went from office to office on campus, and he co-signed a loan, which he later paid off for me. And then he paid the balance on my tuition for the loan that didn't cover. He then took me out to lunch and told me the truth. My mom never helped my sister with her tuition. My sister had graduated the summer before my junior year of college. My sister later confirmed this, but was not surprised my mom had lied. My dad had co-signed a loan to help my sister out, which we had later paid off for her, and my sister was able to get a scholarship and do co-op to pay for her last 2 years. Might be coop, but co-op sounds more gamer, so we're sticking with that. He also advised me that my mom was not so poorly off. As part of the divorce settlement, he had to pay the mortgage and property taxes on our house, and even though my sister was now out on her own, he was still paying her the same amount of child support of about $2K a month, despite the fact that I was living on campus for 75% of the year and my mom had not given me a dime. Just to give you some clarification, my tuition and room and board before financial aid kicked in was $15K a year. So she could have easily helped me out with school, since after financial aid kicked in, when I was able to get it, the balance was usually $6K. I was hurt to think my mom was living off of my child support and constantly making me feeling guilty for wanting anything or not being able to cater for her every whim. She'd get pissed that I wouldn't come home on the weekends to help her clean the house that I was not living in. I thought about how bad she made me feel growing up and made me feel worthless when in fact, had it not been for me or my sister, she would not have a roof over her head after the divorce. He asks me to grant him access to my account so he could prove my mom was not paying for college and that I was. He asked me how I would feel if he took care of college instead of paying my mom's child support. Sounded good to me. He even told me I could spend my breaks at his house instead of my mom's. I called my mom and told her that my dad had taken care of the issue and she had no remorse. She told me it was my own fault for not planning my finances better and for pissing away my money all summer. I played dumb and said she was right, but pointed out I had done what she told me to do and complained to my dad. A month later, my mom called me up pissed. My dad had spoken with the courts and there was going to be a hearing in their divorce case. My dad had proven that my mom hadn't been paying for mine nor my sister's tuition for college, and that was the very reason my dad was obligated to pay child support till I was done with college. Since I was living on campus, it didn't make sense to pay her child support when I was not living at home most of the year, and she has not given me one penny. My dad told the judge he would gladly pay for me to finish college, but was not going to pay my mom any more child support, nor pay the mortgage on the house. If my mom didn't want to take over the mortgage, they could sell the house and I could live with him over my breaks. My mom was freaking out over this and calling me selfish. I just reminded her that my tuition must cost a lot more than what she got in child support since she was never able to help me with the costs of school. She just kept laying guilt trips on me about how I was selfish because she didn't get to go to college right after high school and how she never got to have 4 carefree years of college. I pointed out to her that she had not worked since my grandma died 3 years ago, and that I was working and going to school at that time while she got to live a carefree life. She ripped me a new one at that point and tried to get back at my dad by not paying utilities on the house to make it seem like she needed the money. She then told me the electric and water were now shut off, so if I wanted to come home for winter break, I needed to help her out. She had moved in with her boyfriend at his condo. I told her I'd miss her, but that I would just go to my dad's for winter break. She was pissed and cried about how selfish I was for not wanting to come home for Christmas. Side note, the Christmas before my present was throwing out many of my personal belongings. Why? My mom was pissed off at me that I didn't want to come home one weekend to help her clean because I got to go home and had to take 2 buses, 2 trains, and spend $20 one way, and then wait for her to hopefully remember to pick me up at the train station, which was a whole 20-minute drive for her, after I had traveled 4 to 5 hours because I had finals, and I told her I would help clean for the holidays once I came home for winter break. Her response? She took all of my things, threw them in boxes, and threw them out on the front lawn. Most of my things were destroyed by being left out in the rain, and I was away with most of them. I told my mom I would come and visit her over my winter break once she got the utilities turned on. I told my dad what was going on, and he said he and my stepmom and my half-brother and sister were thrilled I was going to stay with them for winter break, and he can help me get a job at his office as well for winter break. He also called my mom and reminded her that the child support had not stopped, and that they were going to list the house in a few months, so what was this nonsense about the utilities being shut off? She was pissed, but magically came up with the money to turn them back on. That spring, my dad officially, by the court, took over my college tuition, and even made sure I got my full financial aid since he helped pick up W-2s for me. My mom lost her child support and was told by the judge that she better cooperate with the sale of the house and keep up the utility bills, so it would sell. Her boyfriend moved in with her till the house sold and she moved into another time zone. The real kicker, it was cheaper for my dad to pay college costs than to pay child support. To summarize, my mom abused and exploited me, and I got my revenge by causing her to lose child support and free rent by doing what she told me to do for years.
Complain to my father.
No regrets. Edit. So many comments and upvotes. Thanks. Some of you have asked, are things better now? Depending on what you mean, I am not as close to her as I am father and stepmom, whom I grew closer to after college, and am still close to this day. But I do have some sort of relationship with her. We talk, but I have learned not to trust her because she will let me down. I.e., a couple of years ago when we were supposed to meet for my birthday and she stood me up. Now I don't include her at all when I plan birthdays or holidays. Some have asked how she treated us growing up. She wasn't 100% bad, but her bad moments were pretty bad. Granted, I've met a lot of people who have had it worse, so I try to remember that. After college, she was trying to pull the same pity card she had when I was in school. This time, she was trying to convince me to move from NJ to TN. She had moved before my last year of college to a different time zone and didn't even bother to tell me or my sister. She just took off. I liked the area and told her I would see if I could get a job and would consider taking her up on her offer to live in her guest room temporarily. She right away started laying on me a guilt trip and I hung up. She then called my sister and complained about,
I have a daughter that doesn't want to take care of me.
My sister and I both laugh about that. She wasn't even 50, perfectly healthy and refused to work. No way was I going to move in and take care of her. She pretty much spent most of her adult life in and out of mental hospitals and trying to convince us that either we want to live with her or we want her to live with us. She moved into my grandparents' old house in Philly as they passed away years ago, didn't keep up with the repairs and had to sell it for less than what she felt it was worth. Wound up staying in various relatives' guest rooms and coming up with excuses not to work, and finally wore her welcome at so many people's houses that she wound up in the hospital and then in a shelter and now lives in subsidized housing. It's a cute apartment and is loft style, but guess what? She still complains about how bad she has it and how no one wants to take her in. And there you have it, folks.
The end of the epic!
If you liked the story, be sure to leave a like on the video, as well as make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on, that way you could stay up to date with all the latest and the greatest. As always, my name's Ryan, the official host here on Reddit Voice, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the very next video.